Going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great response. I know that politics can be really confusing, especially these days. And so, this is a place where you can go to get all your questions asked, and there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. It's just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Because, yeah, things are weird now. Things are very weird, and it can be difficult to figure out what is real information and what is fake information and what is propaganda. Who can you trust? And what is actually going on in the government? What is going on in the country? It can be difficult to figure that out, you know? And so this is a show where you can ask all those questions. It can be as simple as, you need it to be. I understand that there is a big learning curve with politics, and so this is a place where you can ask all those questions and no one's going to make fun of you for not knowing things or for having specific political beliefs. This is not a show where people yell at each other and fight and call each other stupid or call each other uninformed or fascist or cuck or whatever. This is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you're Republican, a Democrats. I don't care if you're something else. I don't care if you're further to the left than me or further to the right than me. If you are asking a question in good faith, then you will get a good faith answer. I feel like there's too much emphasis these days on sort of like debate culture around political conversations where people are just trying to win instead of actually trying to engage and learn things about where people are coming from and why people might feel the way that they feel. And so that is not what we do here. We just answer good faith questions about politics, and there's no fighting, there's no roasting, there's no debating, there's no judgment. So you don't have to worry about, oh, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm uninformed. Nope. There's no judgment here. No such thing as a dumb question. You don't have to worry about, oh, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA person. It's like, I don't care. I don't care if you're a MAGA person. I don't care if you're not a MAGA person. You will not get judged on your question whatsoever. Maybe, you're like, oh, I don't want to ask this because people will think I'm some sort of libtard cuck. You can be a libtard cuck if you want. There's no judgments here. There's no roasting. There's no debating. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Because I want people to engage. I want people to get more involved in politics. I want people to get more involved in activism. I want more people to know what is going on. Javi says, not good faith. What you're saying, you're not here in good faith, Javi? Because I believe it based on your activity on my live streams in the past. Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. We are here. All right, Javi. Congratulations. You're out of here. Alrighty, welcome everybody to the live stream. We are here to answer your good faith questions about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. I'll do my best. I'll do my best to give you an objective and sincere answer as I can possibly muster. I'm not here to fight with anybody. I'm not here to argue or debate or own anybody. It is just, I'm trying to get more people involved. I'm trying to get more people engaged. I'm trying to, what do you call it? All right, JP12 Real over on Twitch says, good morning and thank you. Good morning and thank you. I hope you got, Francis Sizemore says, we love Donald Trump. I mean, I don't know who the we is in that sentence. And you're allowed to, Francis. Can you tell me something that you like about him? Are you not worried about all the inflation and people losing their jobs and farmers are going bankrupt and shit like that? Is that not concerning to you? Ben says, why don't the impeachments actually get the president out of office? Excellent question, Ben. So impeachment is a two-stage process. There's the actual impeachment part, which is where the House votes on it, and there you only need a majority of votes. But then there's actually the removing from office, and because that's sort of like more drastic, the founders decided to make that a higher bar to reach. And so in order to get there, you need 67 seats in the Senate to vote to remove from office. And that is a very high bar. And normally that would be fine because you would have like normal people looking at what the president is doing objectively. But what we currently have is a Republican Party that is willing to let the President Trump do whatever the fuck he wants, regardless of how illegal or immoral or unconstitutional it is. And so even though he extorted Ukraine, even though he sicked a bunch of people on the Capitol to do a coup, even though he currently has a crypto coin where he is accepting billions of dollars in dark money bribes from people who will never find out who the fuck they are. They could be from adversarial nations or shit like that. Yeah, there's reporting out today that said that we gave artificial intelligence chips to, I think, the Saudis because they invested $15 billion in Donald Trump's crypto coin, which is like, I don't know if there's a better example of just like flat out corruption and bribery. So the Republican Party is just going to let that happen. He should be being impeached right now. Like that is, without question. All right. JP says, good to note impeachment is a political act, not a vote. It's not a criminal trial like some people think. Yeah, 100%. That is accurate. Ben says, I appreciate the answer, man. I've been wondering for a while. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're answering questions. Pablo, 95, says, how do you think we would do if the U.S. dissolves the presidency and establishes monarchy? Terrible. I mean, we established the country to get away from a monarchy. So, yeah, no, that's a hard pass from Jared. Shay May Katie says he remembers all his fake numbers but can't remember to answer subpoenas. Who? Donald Trump? Carmine says, did you watch the hearing this morning? I did not. I can't stand those fucking hearings. I hate watching these ding dong just lie and obfuscate and then getting to yell in matches with people. It's very frustrating. Right. Tanner says, what is the statistic for gays, Republican, and Democrat? I don't know what the actual statistics are, but considering that the platform of the Republican Party is against the LGBTQ community, I would have to assume that there are more people in the LGBTQ community in the Democratic Party than in the Republican Party. But that is not, the party is not a monolith. So, if you are part of the LGBTQ community and you're a Republican, then that is fine, of course. Ginger Man says, is there anything that will fix this broken country? 100%. If people like me and you do the work, Ginger Man, then we can fix everything that is currently going wrong. Right. Shay May Keedy says, has Congress ever taken a pay cut in salary and or benefits, medical, etc.? Not to my knowledge, but I am not 100% sure. Dean, I agree with you, but please don't spam the comments. Phil says, there's no such thing as a benevolent dictator or monarch. I mean, I'm sure there have been in the past, but it is not. We can't just count on that. We can't hope that saves us. That whoever our dictator will be a nice person. Right, scrolling down the bottom. Dean says, prove me wrong. I'm not here to prove you wrong, Dean. I'm just asking you to stop spamming the comments. Case the Goat 12 says, what do you think about putting term limits on congressional members? I'm for it. Yeah, what the fuck? Why not? Alrighty, let's see here. Scrolling up. Shay May Keddy says, how does Patel get away with lying about the job the FBI he's doing? So I think what we learned during the first Trump administration is how successful it is to delay perjury hearings for congressional hearings. So in the first Trump administration, we discovered that a number of Trump cabinet officials and department heads were lying to Congress, and that is illegal. And so they were, going to be held liable for that, but it takes a really long time for that to go through. And I also think maybe you would need the majority in Congress to even enforce that. I could be wrong about that, but again, because Republicans are in the majority, then they're not going to bring any perjury, perjury indictments on people like Kash Patel who are doing these lies. So yeah, I think that the Trump officials have, accepted the fact that they are going to lie to Congress and they're going to get away with it. And if they don't get away with it, they will just ask Donald Trump to pardon them. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Girasol says, should we help Israel? I do not believe that we should continue sending money and weapons to Israel because the Israeli government has been found guilty of doing war crimes, and many independent agencies, including the UN, have found that they are doing a genocide against the people of Palestine. And we already have a law on the books that says that we are not allowed to send money and weapons to countries that are doing war crimes and genocide. Should the citizens of Israel be in a position where they actually need America's help for something? then I believe that America should be there for them. But that is not what is going on right now. What's going on right now is the government of Israel is perpetuating a genocide, and they don't need our help. They're fine without us. It's not like their citizens are starving or anything like that. All right. Ali says, have you seen that Israel has started putting propaganda on YouTube via ads? I haven't, but I'm also not surprised at all. Tautological says, is white Christian nationalism the same as Christianity? No, it is not. White Christian nationalism is an extremist ideology that says that we should be forcing everybody in America to be Christians, and you can't be a real American unless you're a Christian, and you could be, thrown in jail for practicing other religions, and that the protections that you have as a Christian do not extend to other religions. And yeah, Christianity is not that. There are many different sects of Christianity, but if you're just going based off of what Christ said in the New Testament, that's about, love thy neighbor, feed the hungry, heal the sick, house the unhoused, if people are hungry and cold, give them food and clothing, shit like that. Crest Supremacy says, you should be thrown in jail for buying Colgate. What the hell does that mean, buying Colgate? Oh, Crest Supremacy, stupid. Wow. Sometimes the walk it takes for a person's brain to get the joke is enough to make it a good joke, All right, Richard says, the far left are more dangerous than the far right. That is factually inaccurate, Richard. 80%, I think 80% of political violence comes from the right. In addition, the platform of the far left is to make sure that people have what they need. And the platform of the far right is authoritarianism and fascism, Richard. All right, Friendly Friend says, why do you say Israeli government in a way that omits responsibility from the Israeli people? Because the people are not doing this. It is the Israeli government that is doing this. The same way that the American government is, ignoring human rights and deporting people without due process and sending people to concentration camps, both, domestically and abroad. That does not represent me as an American citizen. That does not represent the majority of American citizens. Only 22% of people voted in 2024. And so, yeah, I don't think it is productive to demonize the citizens of a country when the government is responsible for it. All right, Tautological says, has Christianity in this country been hijacked by white Christian nationalism? I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know how many Christians believe in the doctrine of Christian nationalism or, what their numbers are. But yeah, there are many sects. I don't know. I don't know where the numbers break down as far as like people that consider themselves Methodists or Catholics or white Christian nationalists. Let's see here. Friendly Friend says, I believe latest poll is 79% of Israeli people are pro-G-side. Their military is made up of its people. I don't know about that poll, Friendly Friend. I would need to look into that, but I don't buy it, I also have a lot of empathy for a population of a country that is the victim of propaganda and misinformation. So just because people were convinced that this was the move or that their government is not doing terrible, horrific things that they don't need to do doesn't mean that they are, in favor of it. You can really skew polls depending on how they're worded. So I would really look into that. So yeah, people are just people. They're just trying to live their fucking lives, Cletus from the Holler says, boys and girls don't ask anyone with Stein in their name. That's anti-Semitic, so we're gonna go ahead and block you. All right, Sherry says, how could U.S. change imbalance of Senate to House representatives' power? I don't know. People have suggested dissolving the Senate. People have suggested rebalancing the Senate so that states that have, fewer citizens have fewer senators, and states that have more citizens have more senators. Like, it's kind of bananas that's California and Wyoming have the exact same political power in the Senate when California has something like 10 times the population of Wyoming. So, no tea, no shade to Wyoming. It's a wonderful state. I'm just saying. Let's see here. Beaverino says, dissolve the Imperial Senate. Not in favor of an empire, of course, like Galactic Empire, especially not one run by a Sith Lord. W. Page says, the IDF is considering expanding recruitment to the diaspora due to manpower shortage. Oh, God. Thank you for the good news, W. Page. I appreciate that. Dennis994 says Destiny is based if you get past being emotionally immature. Yeah, I don't hate Destiny. You know, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I think he's extremely well informed and he's a very talented debater. I just don't think that debates are good. You know. Alrighty, let's see here. Scrolling up, scrolling up. Elhen says, "What do you think about them want to take pews away from the LGBTQ community, and who's next?" I mean, this is the way that authoritarian governments work. You only get rights if you are part of their group. So the same way that black people in South Africa didn't have the same rights as white people in South Africa. The Trump administration is trying to make it so that only white Christian Republicans are the ones that get to enjoy things like due process and the Second Amendment and the right to protest. And, according to Donald Trump, the right is the only one that has a right to violence as well, because, people go out there and do a fucking coup on the Capitol, and then he just fucking pardons them. Alrighty. Richard says, that's fake news. What do you think is fake news? Dan Blackwood says, Wyoming, Montana, and the Dakotas should all be one state. I don't know if we need to do that, but maybe they can share a senator. Gigi says, my son wants to join in the military because he says they need good guys, but I'm so scared. I mean, the military is a dangerous place to be, and I think that there's a lot of value in serving your country, either, through the military or through other means. But I absolutely have, I understand the impulse of wanting to be in a place where you can think that you can make it better, or even if you're just I need money for college, or this is the only game in town as far as work is concerned. I don't know if I'd ever encourage anybody to join the military, but I get it. That is, yeah, I feel bad for you, but yeah, I guess all my best to you guys. Shay May Kitty says, I missed about black pilots. I'm on the NYC subway. Well, I didn't say anything about black pilots. I know that, the fella who was just assassinated last week had a thing to say about black pilots that apparently people do not like being reminded of. Elias says, Trump is not getting the deportations done because he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. I mean, he's not getting the deportations done because the goal that he has set is impossible. He is deporting people who have done no crimes. He's deporting people who are here legally. He has deported citizens and detained veterans and Native Americans and shit like that. And even then, he's not hitting his numbers. It's fucking disgusting. He's increased the budget of ICE 360%. It is a rogue agency that has no oversight whatsoever, All right. Raison Dale says, why assassinated and not murdered? I mean, I think if you are famous in politics specifically, it would count as an assassination. This not the same way that if someone's just an actor or a painter or a musician or something, that it would count as that. I think that would be a murder maybe. But again, I don't really truck with these semantic arguments. I will call them one or the other. I don't really want to die on this mountain. What's up, Lauren? Good to see you again. Elias says, we need to deport all of these people, but Trump isn't the answer. I don't agree that we need to deport all these people. Elias, what do you think the issue is with people who are here both legally or illegally? Fogwar Productions, the GOP seems to insist that Utah and the Mormons are partly to blame for the assassination lately. That seems really interesting. I haven't seen anything coming out of the GOP to suggest that they are blaming anybody but the left for this. From the top of the food chain, for Donald Trump, Ben Shapiro, fucking all the ding-dongs over at Fox News, everybody is just saying this is the left. Alex Jones, Elon Musk, they're all just saying the left. They're trying to direct more political violence towards the left. I haven't heard a single person in the GOP say that Mormons or Utah are to blame. But I believe you, Fogwar Productions. I know that you are a reliable source. Let's see here. Elias says Israel is the real problem. Can we not say shit like that, please? We can talk about the Netanyahu government specifically being terrible and being guilty of war crimes and G-side, but when you say Israel, you're lumping in, you're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not anecdotally, but you're just kind of I don't know, inferring that Jewish people are responsible also. So let's be specific, guys. Right, Raphael Tinajero says, "Are we rioting like the left?" Raphael, I believe that it is inaccurate to say that the left riots. There are certainly riots that have happened. There are certainly riots that have been associated with right-wing causes and left-wing causes, and sports teams winning or losing. So yeah, please miss me with that nonsense. Dino Max says, "May I ask your opinion? Do you think we are on the brink of World War III?" Thank you. I don't think that I think it's going to happen. I think we are in a dangerous position with global tensions on the rise and a completely incompetent American government that is incapable of doing any kind of diplomacy or strategic foreign policy. So yeah, it's dangerous. I do see tensions between other countries rising, and even violent incursions into other countries' borders, maybe continuing, but really a global conflict where it's like two sides, the way that World War One and World War Two were. I don't think that that's probably in the cards. Again, but that's just me, shoot from the hip. Maya Gold says, "I've seen Charlie Kirk's videos. Why do people hate him?" Well, there's two different camps of people that hate him. There's a group called the Groypers, which are sort of like led by this internet schnazi named Nick Fuentes, and that is not me, calling him that. That is him calling himself that. Like, he is unabashedly that. And they didn't like Charlie Kirk because they thought that he wasn't far right enough. The rest of us, we don't like him because when he was doing his debates, he was lying, and he was doing so to propel forward a very specific political agenda. He was not engaging with people in good faith. He was trying to win. And the things that he was saying were either, subtly or not subtly homophobic, misogynistic, racist. He said things like he didn't trust black pilots. He said that he believed that for the benefit of having his Second Amendment, we should just accept that there are going to be, gun deaths and school shootings and shit like that. And so, yeah, he was an extremely vocal and powerful mouthpiece for a toxic ideology that was built on lies and misinformation. He was a propagandist, and he was an agitator. Let's see here. Maya Gold says, "What? No, it's taken out of context. He was talking about DEI." Well, Maya Gold, DEI isn't the way that Charlie Kirk was describing it. DEI is making sure that overly qualified people of color are not kept out of positions just because they are people of color. DEI is not giving jobs to underqualified people of color, even though there are much more qualified white people available. And the thing is, like, I can understand a person not knowing that, or being told that that is the case and then believing that. But Charlie Kirk knew that that was a lie. Charlie Kirk knew that what he was doing was bullshit. He was a very smart guy. And so I'm not going to give him the same grace that I would give somebody who is just like a random person on the internet who believes misinformation and propaganda, because he knew exactly what he was doing. He did not deserve to be murdered, of course. I do not condone any kind of violence or property destruction, but that's the reason why people didn't like him. Right, Ryder says, "No, he literally, American Airlines said they want 50% black pilots while they had 10%, that's DEI. All right, Ryder, congratulations. That's not a question, so you're adding here. I don't care if you have different political beliefs than me, guys, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. Jay says, "Why do you call open debate to challenge the woke leftist monolithic media narrative a liar?" Because he lied. He lied all the time. PolitiFact rated him as a pants on fire. He would just make shit up in debates. There was a debate that he was having with Sam Cedar where he claimed that subsidies for coal added hundreds of thousands of jobs to West Virginia. And West Virginia was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, maybe it was 1,000 jobs or something, but hundreds of thousands. Like, he just makes shit up constantly, Right, let's see here. Kimberly says, "People lie." Yeah, but I think that if you are a mouthpiece for a political movement, you have more of a responsibility to tell the truth. Because that's what you are marketing it in. You are marketing, I am giving you the reality of the government and the country, and if you are lying to people in order to gain political power or money or fame, then I think that you're a really bad person. No, it says it wasn't just that he was telling lies, which he was. It's that Republicans are actioning on that BS. That is also accurate. Let's see here. I don't know what Shabos Goy means, Elias. Quim says, you'd think all this political violence recently would make people see we need change, but no, crazy. I mean, the problem is that the people at the top of the Republican Party hierarchy, the the what do you call it? The not the content creators, but uh, what do you call the people that like make social media stuff and everybody looks up to them? God damn. Anyways, so yeah, politicians, reporters on the right, politicians on the right, they are all continuing this. They're all incentivizing and riling up their base and encouraging this kind of political violence. That is where it is coming from. That is the nexus of all of this, Influencer, thank you everybody. I appreciate it. Yeah, all the right-wing influencers are the ones that are pushing this, whereas every influencer on the left, every reporter on the left, every politician on the left is condemning it and saying we need to stop this. We need to not be doing political violence. We need to calm the fuck down. Alrighty, Zane's World says, so Bernstein, not my name, believes people should be shot dead for their opinion. That is not what I said. You are also anti-Semitic, so you're out of here. Goodbye. All right, Noah says, because if he was just telling lies, but he weren't that famous and there was no legislation, no one would care. Yeah, exactly, Y2KGMR says, what do you think of Charlie's spot being filled by someone much further right than him, like Nick Fuentes? I mean, it's terrifying. And I certainly hope that does not happen. Bully AMG says, is Israel committing genocide? According to a number of independent agencies, including those within Israel and including those in the UN, the answer is yes. The government of Israel is guilty of doing a genocide. Maya Gold says, so how do you get your political facts? So I like to do a really expansive and diverse media diet. The only thing, Maya Gold, that I avoid is right-wing news like Fox News or Breitbart or InfoWars, Alex Jones, shit like that, because we have a lot of data on how accurate those news sources are, and it is very inaccurate. I think some reports have said that it is as little as 20% accurate. So I don't engage in any right-wing, news media. But I will check out legacy media like the New York Times. I will check out centrist media like the Associated Press. I will check out foreign media like the Guardian UK. And I also like progressive media like, Crooked Media or MSNBC. I find that progressive media tends to be the most accurate in describing how toxic and dangerous the Republican Party has become over the past couple of decades. And so I find I enjoy that level of accuracy there. Let's see here. Panic and Freakout says, was the last decent Republican Eisenhower? I mean, I guess it just depends on how you define it. Like Nixon created the Environmental Protection Agency. Ronald Reagan said that we are a nation of immigrants. George W. Bush said after 9/11 that we should not demonize Muslims and people of other faiths. And, I think those are all laudable qualities. I think they've just all been getting progressively worse, maybe ever since Eisenhower or some shit like that. Oh, right. Noah says George Bush had No Child Left Behind, which was successful. Debatable. No Child Left Behind was part of getting rid of civics in public education, and I think that we are watching the outcome of that. Mr. Fixit says the first Republican assassinated by a Democrat was Abraham Lincoln by John Wilkes Booth for hate speech. I don't believe that is accurate at all, Mr. Fixit. I don't believe that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated for hate speech. Jay says, you think, regardless of what he said about econ jobs, his anti-woke ideas were good? ? Woke is divisive. I don't think woke is divisive. I think that the right has weaponized the term woke. But woke, in essence, is just, having empathy for other human beings. And if somebody says, hey, I don't like it when you call me the R word or the F word or anything, then you going, okay, I guess I won't do that anymore because it is literally no skin off my back. Let's see here. Elias says, we need a Christian nation. I don't think so, Elias. Also ask a question because you're kind of getting on my nerves. Will Chambers says, you don't know your facts, buddy. I certainly do. know my facts, Will Chamber, and that's not a question, so you're out of here. Again, guys, I don't care if you disagree with me politically, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. Average Joe PG, great to see you again. What do you think would be a more beneficial high school course requirement if you could only choose one, civics or media literacy? I mean, now media literacy, but maybe before social media, I would have said civics. All right, Sarah Lou says, why do you think there is such a staunch difference in political opinions today? Well, there's a bunch of different factors, Sarah. I think social media algorithms incentivizing inflammatory content, fights get likes kind of a thing, is part of it. But I also think that we are watching the end result of a decades-long, conspiracy by the billionaire class to create this environment where we are fighting amongst ourselves, and people believe that the problem is not billionaires, but is Democrats or immigrants or Republican voters or trans kids, insert your scapegoat here. And I'm sure that there's some other factors involving inequities in our justice system and our electoral systems. But I think those are probably the main two things: is social media algorithms and a concerted effort by the billionaire class to create the division that we are currently suffering under. Tank Haskell says, isn't it great to see California, New York, and Illinois losing congressional seats and electoral votes? I don't think it is great. Elias says, BLM destroyed our country. Congratulations, Elias. You are now out of here. Jay says, finally something true. Billionaires want to bring masses down. Dems and Republicans are both in on it equal. That is inaccurate, Jay. The Republican Party has massively cut taxes for the billionaire class. The Democratic Party has raised taxes on the billionaire class. The Republican Party has weakened the unions in order to help out their billionaire buddies. The Democratic Party has strengthened unions in order to help out the workers and the 99%. There are massive differences between the political parties, their politicians, their platforms, their history of legislation, outcomes on the state and federal level, depending on who is in charge. So yeah, I do not buy this uniparty theory one single fucking bit. C. Flan says, we are being pitted against each other. It's just finger pointing over unity. Sad, really? Yeah, I agree with that. All right. I've been informed, Barry, about what your screen name means, and I don't love it, but I will answer your question. Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, though. So Nancy Pelosi is a more centrist gerontocracy, Democrat. She does not represent the party in its entirety. And while she is a more corporate-friendly Democrat, and also has said publicly that she believes it's okay for people in power to do insider trading, which is psychotic, and she should not have said that. That does not represent the party in general. And also, even a corporate Democrat like Nancy Pelosi is still going to be better for the 99% than any Republican, because at best, a corporate Democrat is just going to water down their pro 99% platform, whereas the Republican Party's platform is pro billionaire, anti 99%. And so add billionaire money to that, and you're just supercharging it. You are just, doing it on fucking nitro on X Games mode. All right. Cannon says, Israel runs our government. That is not true. Please don't spam the comments. Ask a question or I'm going to block you. Golden Buzz says, working class have more in common. Dems and GOP represent the ruling class. Again, no. What we're talking about here are, what do the politicians do? What do the voters do? I believe that the voters have more in common than not, that they believe in the same sort of legislation, and that the Republican base has been lied to about what the government is doing and what is the reality of our country. As far as the politicians go, the Republican Party is more in line with the billionaire class. The Democratic Party is way less in line with the billionaire class. Paul B says, why did our government kill Charlie Kirk? Watch the videos and it'll prove it. I don't believe that you are here in good faith, Paul, so I'm just going to get rid of you right now. The government did not kill Charlie Kirk. All right, scrolling down. Tank Haskell says, who loves to see lower taxes on tips, Social Security, and overtime? I would. That legislation specifically is kind of bullshit, the way that the Republicans have done it. Like, it's crumbs. It's basically nothing. They have taken away so much more from the working class than they have given to them by not taxing tips, overtime, and Social Security. All right. Stink NYC says, do you agree The only way we will see a female U.S. president in our lifetime is if she is a Republican. I don't agree with that. FK says, do you think the two-party system is sustainable? I do. You know, I don't love the two-party system, but I also think that it is not as evil as people make it out to be. The problems that people associate with the two-party system, I find to be more problems with the campaign finance regulations and the Republican Party. Hello Kitty says, Democratic Party is full of billionaires and such as Soros and many others that donate to their candidates. There are billionaires in the Democratic Party. There are billionaires that donate to Democrats. Hello Kitty, but the vast majority of billionaires donate to the Republican Party. 75% of all billionaire political donations in 2024 went to Republican candidates. And it makes sense why they would, because the Republican platform is a giveaway to the billionaire class, and the Democratic platform is more supportive of the 99% and the working class. Delino says, how much influence does AIPAC have on Democrats versus Republicans? I would say that it has a lot of influence on both parties, but I think that I think you could make a substantive argument that it has more sway over the Republican Party, particularly because their goals align more than with the Democratic Party. They're kind of swimming upstream when they're trying to affect Democratic policy, whereas the Republican Party is like, yeah, we're down. We're on board with what you're doing. DJ Hunt says, was it a liberal that killed Charlie? So all available evidence right now suggests that the shooter was a Groyper, and it makes a little bit more sense to that he would be as opposed to somebody on the left. John Bradley says, the fact that billions of dollars are allocated towards elections is a problem regardless of party. That is true, John Bradley, but one party is trying to change that, and one party is making it worse. The Republican Party is currently in charge of the White House, the judiciary, and both houses of Congress. If they wanted to, they could get money out of government right now, get money out of elections right now. But they're doing the opposite. They're making it easier to bribe and hide bribes to elected officials. They're making it less illegal. They're making it more obscure. Whereas the Democratic Party has been trying to dismantle this system for a very long time. And it is only Republican intransigence that is the reason why they were not able to in the past. DJ Hunt says, are you Democrat or Republican? I am a Democrat. I consider myself a progressive Democrat. Delino says, do you think there was really no foul play in the hangings this week so far? I don't, I don't have any evidence that there was no foul play. I am extremely skeptical that there was no foul play. I think it's really important that we be specific when we are going against the narratives that are coming out of official channels, even if those channels are, heavily compromised the way that the Department of Justice currently is compromised by the Trump administration. So yeah, I would say it doesn't look like that, but I don't really have any evidence right now that it is not that. Let's see here. Ram says, it's Mississippi. Anything could be true. I mean, there were a bunch of threats to historically black colleges and universities after the Charlie Kirk assassination. So it kind of tracks, with a timeline of political retribution that this would have been that, But again, I don't know. I don't have any evidence. It just kind of it just makes sense to me. DJ says, what time is the court time? I don't know what you mean by that. Pello Chork says, what do you think about the student who was expelled from Texas Tech University? I'm assuming that this is a person that was expelled because they said some shit about Charlie Kirk, but I'm not sure which specifically you are referring to. Andy Johnson says, what would you do to mend the rift between liberals and leftists? I guess I would say we need to talk to each other more in the real world, and we need to sort of recognize that whatever our differences are, the goal of unelecting every Republican should be absolute, whether you are a leftist or a liberal. Because, they are the worst version. Republican politicians are the worst version of everything that you hate about liberal politicians or leftist politicians. John Bradley says, she assaulted people and cursed them out, probably against university policy. Yeah, I haven't heard about that story, so I'm not sure anything about it. Let's see here. Crying Face and Prayer Hand says, I was about to actually attend, but I will say Ole Miss had a Klan rally in the 2000s. Mississippi is terrible. I mean, there's a reason, there is deeply entrenched racism in states that used to be part of the Confederacy, and we should all be part of the project of undoing that. Fletch Lives Again says, are Republicans going along with Trump because they agree or are afraid? I think it's probably like, I don't know, 70% agree and 30% are afraid. Let's see here. Hunter says, why do these uneducated leftists always go to violence? Hunter, I do not believe that you're here in good faith, so you're out of here. Also, you got no profile picture, so you're sketchy as hell. Let's see here. Crying Face Prayer Hand says, I actually hope to get into Mississippi politics. I hope you do. Joni Calder says, did you hear Trump blew up another boat? What the fuck? Yeah, it is psychotic that our military is performing extrajudicial murders of foreign nationals. It is unbelievable. Like, the fact that the military is getting away with this right now is psychotic, and everybody should be really worried about this and fucking calling your representatives every single fucking day. Like, this is not okay. Because how short of a step is it from them doing that shit and them doing that to American citizens on American soil? Jay says, you got to acknowledge Pelosi insider trading / blocking congressman trading regulation at all. There are way more Republicans who are doing insider trading and blocking insider trading regulation. Jay, are you aware of that? Or are you specifically trying to push the narrative that only Pelosi and Democrats are doing that? I will wait for your response, Jay. Dam says, how dare you get rid of the people bringing drugs into this country? You're not allowed to murder people on suspicion, Dam. Joe Scott says, who did they murder? They murdered a bunch of people in a boat off the coast of Venezuela. Yeah, Jay, still waiting for you to respond about that, Jay. You know, Ram says, Mississippi is the place they found hundreds of missing people in marked graves. Yeah, I think I remember. I remember reading about that. Crispy Mac says, AIPAC, question mark. I do not care for AIPAC. They're an extreme right-wing organization that puts a lot of toxic money into our electoral systems. Jay, still waiting for your response, my guy. It almost seems like you're kind of full of shit. Maya Gold says, how long have you been a producer, writer, and comedian? Ooh, let's see here. I probably got started in earnest in like 2005, I think. Joe Skog says, those were go fast boats. That still does not mean that you're allowed to murder all those people. Jay says, they all do it, laughy face. So how can you say one side is more pro-billionaire corrupt than the other? So they do not all do it, Jay. In fact, there are more Democrats pushing for legislation to end insider trading in Congress than there are Republicans. Republicans have complete control of the government right now. Why aren't they ending it if they want to end it? Josh Hawley and a bunch of other Democrats are currently trying to get a bill passed to ban insider trading for Congress. And because Republicans are fucking, bending the knee to Goddaddy Trump, they put a provision in there that exempts him. And they still won't fucking pass it. Rick Scott went out there with his whole fucking ass and said that people in Congress need to insider trade or they'd be poor. So you can miss me with that both sides nonsense, my guy. Let's see here. Jay says they all do it. Dems could have ended it last time they had the majority. That is inaccurate, Jay, because they would need 60 votes in the Senate, and Republicans were filibustering it. There are no Democrats filibustering it right now. Sirius says, why do Republicans so easily fall for lies and conspiracies, misinformation, and propaganda? John Bradley says, Restore Faith in Congress Act is the latest iteration. It's bipartisan, will most likely not pass. Again, because Republicans are in charge. Joe Skog says, what type of boats do drug smugglers use? I don't know, but I am sure that people who are not drug smugglers also use those boats. Also, I believe there's a thing called due process where you're not just allowed to murder people because you think they might be drug dealers. Even if you are 100% certain that somebody's a drug dealer, you still don't get to fucking murder them if they are a citizen of another country not in our borders. Alrighty, I need to do a little calming down because I've been getting a little fighty lately. Average Joe PG, certainly you will calm me down. Would you agree or disagree that it's important to be knowledgeable about what right-wing media is saying, not as a legitimate source, but to understand where their arguments come from? I think 100% an argument could be made that that is necessary. But I also think it's a little bit like trying to sculpt Jell-O, because the arguments change so much. They have so little basis in reality. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think sculpt Jell-O I think it's fight Jell-O, isn't that the expression? So yeah, that's not a philosophy that I subscribe to, but I don't begrudge anybody who wishes to engage in that practice themselves. I also just don't want to give them another view, another click, shit like that. Jay says, do you really think all Democrats' government would fix our problems, or that absolute power will corrupt? So Jay, here's the problem. The platform of the Republican Party is to allow influence of money and billionaires into government. So a single Republican in the government is going to be an impediment to fixing this. The platform of the Democratic Party is to get money out of politics. So we replace every Republican with a Democrat, but they're still not doing it. Well, then you replace that Democrat with a better Democrat, not a Republican. Because again, if you go back to being a Republican, if you go back to just electing a Republican, you're taking 2 steps backwards instead of taking a step forward. Alrighty. But yes, it is true that absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. But here's the thing. The Democratic Party is a big tent. It is a rainbow coalition. And so it is never going to be a uniparty so long as the Democratic Party is made up of a caucus of African Americans and LGBTQ and Jewish people and women and, Latinos, et cetera, et cetera. Crispy Mac says, what can I do to become more impactful in our politics? Crispy Mac, I would encourage you to check out my Discord. I have a couple of threads there that I think would answer that question for you. Link is in the bio. Number 1, there is a thread called The Work where I talk about what everybody can do to help be more politically engaged and to try to solve some of these problems that we are facing as a population. But there's also like recommendations for podcasts and books that also deal with that topic. And I hope that you will do that, Crispy Mac. And let me know if you do. John Bradley says, what is the most positive news you have heard for DNC causes lately? I mean, Democrats are fucking running the table in special elections ever since 2020, January 1st, 2025. Districts that are heavily Trump-leading districts have, Democrats have won those seats. And so I'm not going to rest on my laurels and hope that trend keeps up. I want to be part of the coalition of people that is making that trend keep up and also potentially accelerating that trend. So yeah, the work is working, guys. We just need to have more people doing more of it. Right. Quito says, Jarrett looks a little like Joe Flacco, which is a compliment. I don't know who that is, but I accept your compliment. LJ Henry says, what are your thoughts on the Trump administration labeling Antifa a terrorist organization? I mean, he tried to do that in the first term. The Trump administration is using the death of Charlie Kirk as a mechanism to supercharge their fascist agenda, which was already in progress. So they already had a plan to use the Justice Department to go after Democrats and progressive organizations and, label Antifa, which isn't even a fucking organization that exists. There's no like head of Antifa anywhere, as terrorist organizations. So yeah, it's just, we knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. I told everybody this was going to happen. Nobody fucking listened to me. All right. Lynn Genrich says they just found a young black man hung, starting a new era of lynching. Yeah, that's terrifying, And I know that the police in those states are saying that there's no foul play detected, but it does kind of seem like that is what's happening, Joe Skog says, fascist by what measure? So, I mean, there's like the 2 separate definitions of fascism. I am using the sort of like logistical definition where they attack the media, attack higher education, consolidate power in government, demagogue problems to otherize, people in the country, a private Gestapo, devaluing expertise. There's like 12 points that make something fascist. Let's see here. Starlit Canopy says it was 2 men in the same state a couple hours from each other. God damn, that is terrifying. Moldorf says the calls are coming from inside the house. Moldor, that's a little inflammatory. I would encourage you to not to tone down your rhetoric, Moldor. Maya Gold says, do you think our electoral system in our country is fair? If not, what specific reforms would you do? So I think the Electoral College needs to go. I think it de-incentivizes people from being engaged in politics, where if you are in a blue state or a red state, you feel like your vote doesn't matter. Either the outcome is determined already, so what does it matter if you vote, kind of a thing. But also it gives a massive advantage to the Republican Party. The Senate map gives a massive advantage to the Republican Party, so either rebalance the Senate map or dissolve the Senate. Get rid of partisan gerrymandering. The Democrats tried to do that, but Republicans filibustered it. Let's see here. Get money out of politics because that benefits the Republican Party because they are in league with the billionaire class to fund all of their elections. Yeah, that's repeal Citizens United. I think would be a good place to start. Also, yeah, there's just a handful of things. Right. Taylor says become a Democratic delegate. I don't know how one does that. Let's see here. Trophy says, do you like Canada? I do like Canada. Think says, I completely agree with you. The Electoral College needs to go. Tink, I don't know what state you live in, but if you call up your representatives, you can ask them if they have signed up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which would essentially eliminate the Electoral College if we get enough states to sign up for it. Piston Honda says, isn't almost all of Hollywood Democrats? So no, not all of Hollywood is Democrats, and also not all of Hollywood are billionaires. The people that I'm talking about have so much money than even the richest person in Hollywood, it's not even a fucking competition. And again, everything points to Republicans being the party of billionaires. Trump has more billionaires in his cabinet than any president in history. Trump himself is a billionaire. 75% of all billionaire political donations went to Republicans in 2024. And logically, it makes sense. The platform of the Republican Party is a wish list for the billionaire class, whereas the Democratic Party's platform is for the working class and the 99%. All right. Lemmy Gardenmeister says, why do you think all but 2 Republican senators voted to block the release of the Epstein files? I think it's because the president does not want that information to be released. Taylor says, it's super easy. I became a delegate in Utah by just getting in touch with my local municipality. Oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll do that. John Bradley says, how do you get past unrealized gains hurdle for taxation? That is, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. I think you would need somebody like Robert Reich, like somebody who deals with financial policy professionally to answer that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've heard people talk about treating money like money should have an expiration date, like you either use it or you lose it, and potentially that would cause the billionaire class to have to reinvest their profits or do more profit sharing. But yeah, I don't know. Alrighty, let's see here. Mo Beanie, hello back. Average Joe PG. You never have to say last thing, man. You can put as many comments as you like. Can I make a reading request? People need to check out Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. It explains with evidence from studies that the less community engagement a region has, the lower the trust and engagement in government, fellow neighbors. Ooh, I like that a lot. Yeah, check out Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. I haven't read it myself, but I will put it on the list. Average Joe PG. Alrighty, Logan says, "What do you know what a groyper is? Do you think the shooter was one?" So I think it's important to recognize that nobody knows. I believe that the evidence suggests that he was a groyper. Now, what a groyper is a specific wing of extreme right-wing philosophy that are much more extreme than even somebody like Charlie Kirk, where they are like unabashedly anti-Semitic and homophobic and racist. They do not believe that Charlie Kirk should have been talking to Jewish people, that Jewish people are not people even. They are heavily involved in online culture, and so they have their own language. Like all the things that were inscribed on the bullet were all like very specific inside jokes in the Groyper community, which makes me think that that's what the kid was. Danny is terrible says, hi, sorry I joined and have just been listening. How have you been? I've been okay, Danny. No need to apologize. Thank you for being here. Padge T says, check out David Dole, Rational National on YouTube. Canada understands U.S. politics more than U.S. politics more than Americans. I thought they were doing like Can I Has Cheeseburger. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know who David Dole is, but that sounds interesting. Might check it out one day. Let's see here. Ian Niles says, do you think our politicians are creating such a big divide that a war breaks out between us people? I don't think, first of all, I don't think that our politicians are doing it. I think very specifically right-wing politicians and right-wing talking heads are doing this. Your Ben Shapiro's is, your Tucker Carlson's is, your Alex Jones's. Every notable person on the left is not trying to escalate political violence between the citizens. But do I think that it's going to happen? What I think is going to happen is more people on the right are going to be incentivized to do political violence against the left. Some people on the left are then going to retaliate. I don't think they should, and I would encourage everybody, whether you are to the right or to the left, to not do that. but there's always going to be an imbalance there because the president of the United States has pardoned people who have done violence against America, people on the right. And so he has sent a message to the base that if you do violence, I got your back. He told people back in 2015, if you beat up a protester, I will pay your bail. So yeah, there's going to be some, I'm sure, violence from the left to the right, but it is not going to be the same. It is not going to be, you know, spawned by the upper echelons of the left wing, and it is going to be less because I believe that the base is less, interested in doing violence. Let's see here. Joe Scott says, "Do you feel the hate towards Chris Pratt is justified?" I don't know if I would say hate. Like I don't like him, you know, but I don't think you need to hate anybody. Osama bin Balanas. What a name. Let's see here. Kamala shared GoFundMe for people's bail after the BLM riots. Okay, I don't know what you think that comment is accomplishing. Eric Petty says, "Man, I like listening to opposing opinions, but I can only take so much stupidity." That's not a very nice thing to say, Eric. Moldorf says, "What about the people standing behind Charlie Kirk making hand signals before he was shot?" I don't know if that's a real thing, Moldorf. C.G. Bake says, "Check out Birchers by Matthew Dalek. Tells us how the extreme right by any name started and not new." Oh, that sounds interesting. Big Cool says the left killed Charlie and tried on Trump. That is not accurate at all. So you're out of here. See you later. Danny is Terrible says, "Jones called for war over this same man who was sued for calling Sandy Hook crisis." Yeah, I mean, Alex Jones is not alone. A lot of people in the right-wing media sphere are calling for civil war, and it's terrifying. User a bunch of numbers says, "Did you say that the left base is less violent?" I said something to that effect, user a whole bunch of numbers, but let me clarify that comment. I think that the politicians on the right have been creating a culture that lionizes violence for a long time. And there is a ton of data to suggest that right-wing violence is much more prevalent than left-wing political violence. And so just based on those two data points, I think you could make a cogent argument that the base of the right is more violent than the base of the left. But I do not believe that is like an inherent thing in people on the right wing. I don't believe that Republican voters are inherently more violent than Democratic voters. I believe that if the base of the right is more violent, and I think, again, a cogent argument could be made that it is, that is the fault of their politicians inciting that violence, encouraging that violence, encouraging a cultural identity that violence against the people that you don't like is cool. This is the party that created the bumper stickers that say, "If a civil war starts, I'm glad I'm on the side with all the guns." This is the guy that said, if Hillary Clinton gets elected, then she's going to put people in the Supreme Court, and they're going to be there forever unless some of the Second Amendment people have anything to say about it. Shit like that. Let's see here. God says, "Love your show." Oh, it is an honor, God, to be loved by you. Has anyone ever told you that you look like Joe Flacco? People have been saying it a lot. I don't know who that person is. Let's see here. Emily said, "I'm just glad I'm winning and you're losing. Because it's the right that's doing all the violence. I'm just glad I'm winning because you're losing and you're losing." Emily, I'm confused by you because your second comment makes it seem like you're being mean. Your first comment makes it seem like you're agreeing with me. Clarify, Emily. Fog War Productions. I think maybe some right-wingers are upset that Utahns didn't riot, loot, and set things on fire. I think that's really interesting because a lot of people in my chat are saying that, look how much better the right is than the left because we didn't riot the way that people rioted during the Black Lives Matter riots. Righty. Rob says, "I have a question." Great. Put it in the what do you call it? Put it in the chat, Rob. All right, Apple user, a whole bunch of numbers says, "How do we oppose the rights media strat of flooding the field?" Apple user, it's a difficult problem that I think the way that we do that is what I call the sort of like shared reality phone tree, where I agree that I'm going to tell all my friends, make sure that all my friends are not in propaganda, misinformation rabbit holes. And then I also ask them to make sure that all of their friends are also not in misinformation and propaganda rabbit holes. And then they get their friends to do it, and they get their friends to do it, and they get their friends to do it, and they get their friends to do it. You know, it's a difficult, long project, but I think that's the work. I think that that's what we are all responsible for, and we have to take it offline also, because you know the social media networks are basically completely captured by the billionaire class, and so our messages of bringing people back to a shared reality are going to get drowned out by the fights and the misinformation and the propaganda. Rob says, what do you think the U.S. should do to rectify the $37 trillion debt? Tax the rich, heavily tax the rich, invest in impoverished Americans, which will create a larger tax base to also pay more into solving the debt. There, I did it, everybody. I solved the debt. All right. Ms. Andoval Sally says, why do we have Republicans and Democrats? How did this come about? I mean, the history of the political parties is long. You know, it goes all the way back to, I believe, the founding. There were other parties like the Whigs and the Know Nothings, and I'm sure probably forgetting a big one. But yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you like a shortened version, a Cliff Notes version of that story, Ms. Andoval Sally. So sorry about that. Gunnar says, so if you worked hard for your money, you would want people to take it away from you? Yeah, Gunnar, I would. If I was a billionaire and the government told me, hey, give us some money so that we can feed the hungry and clothe the poor and house the unhoused and heal the sick, I would say, absolutely, man. Because not only does that mean that I am less likely to be robbed because somebody needs food or medicine or whatever, you know, selfishly, I don't like seeing people struggling. I don't like watching people dying on the street. You know, so it makes sense morally, it makes sense logistically. Yeah, it is both self-interest and empathy that make me think, yes, hell yeah, take my money, go help people with it. Alrighty, let's see here. Jason Moore says, we have a spending problem, not a tax problem. I disagree with that, Jason Moore. Saint Monkey says, a better society for all of us. Sicker says, yes, over and over again. Thank you for agreeing with me. Rob says, what if you were the only person with money? Would you work for everyone else? If I was the only person in America who had money, then something is super wrong with our economy. And again, if I was the only person with money, then that means that there are 330 million people out there who want what I have. That is a very dangerous position to be in. So 100%, yeah, take my money. Alrighty, Trenton Bridges says, do you think lack of empathy is a nature or nurture thing? Oh, that's an interesting question. You know, it's probably a little bit of both. There are sort of like wiggle rooms in, you know, how people are raised versus like what they think about certain things. But we've also seen studies with twins separated at birth, how unbelievably similar they are. Like they look like their movements are choreographed, and they marry the same kind of people, they get the same kind of jobs. So yeah, I'm sure it's a combination of both. Let's see here. Delino says, should anti-democracy speech remain First Amendment protected? You know, I'm open to argument that we need to recognize how damaging certain speech is. At the same time, it is really dangerous to try to limit First Amendment protections based on the party that is currently in charge. Because who gets to decide what is terrorists, what are terroristic threats and hate speech? Right now, the Trump administration, Kash Patel, Steve Miller, they are all saying that being a Democrat means that you are a terrorist that is doing hate speech. And that is fucking terrifying. That is really, really scary. Like, I don't think that we should be making it illegal for people to say Republican shit, but there are certain things that come out of the Republican, you know, cultural zeitgeist that I think it might not be the worst thing if that specific thing was illegal, you know? So yeah, I guess as I'm talking through it right now, I'm like, mostly I don't think that we need to be adding speech, unprotected speech to the First Amendment, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to an argument about it, but I think if I had to decide today, I would say no. I would say no. let's not add more things to the list of things that you cannot say. Riz Mangwai says, what do you think of China and Russia's warships arriving in Alaska? Did that just happen today? I did not hear about that. That's terrifying. Rob says, also curious how you tax the rich when majority of the richest money isn't held in the U.S. I mean, I think that you would need to have stricter protections on taxes for money that is leaving America. I think we need to do something about um, taxing unrealized gains, where a lot of rich people don't have an income because they just borrow based off of the collateral of their holdings and shit like that. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that mechanism is. You know, I'm not. That's not really my area of expertise, but I do think that there are ways to do it. Like we can do it. It's not impossible. All right. No username says media is an echo chamber due to the shock of Charlie Kirk. No one is hearing about important things. I mean, you know, hopefully you're talking to the people that you know. No profile name, and then Rob says, "So no banks, then," is what you're saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. Kuru says, "Will the next president be anti-Israel?" I don't think the next president will be anti-Israel. The next president might be somebody who is willing to stand up to Netanyahu and the government of Israel and AIPAC, but I do not believe that we will have an anti-Israel or anti-China or anti-Korea or anti-Italy president anytime in the near future. Let's see here. Rob says, I think you nailed it when you said it's not your area of expertise. Cool. All right. Well, no need for you to be mean, man. Let's see here. And neither is anything else you're talking about, LOL. Cool, Rob. I'm so glad you are here. Cool, 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 man. What a great guy. I blocked that guy, so somebody go find him and remind him that I fucked his mom. Let's see here. Moldorf says, what do you think of the governor of Utah's dream about who the shooter was? So there are sometimes Republican politicians say things that I think we are jumping to interpret in a overly negative way. I think that what he was saying there was not that he hopes it was somebody not from this country or like a brown person or some shit. I think what he was saying was he did not want to believe that somebody from Utah could do this. And so, where the governor of Utah, I think, has been doing a really good job of not mirroring the, you know, inflammatory rhetoric of people like Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Alex Jones and Ben Shapiro and Greg Gutfeld and all the fucking ding-dongs over on Fox News. I don't think that he was doing that here also. You know, I don't think that he was trying to say, like, wouldn't it be better if a brown person did this? I think he was saying, I did not want to believe that a person from Utah could do this kind of thing. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because, again, he said all the right things leading up to this. Right, scrolling down to the very bottom. Let's see here. Moldorf says, what he said had racist overtones, in my opinion. I think it's completely fine to have that opinion, but this is just going to be one of those places where we have to agree to disagree. Because, again, I think he earned grace based on how he handled this tragedy from the very beginning of trying to get people to calm down, of encouraging people to get off of social media. So, yeah, you know, I don't believe that that guy would then turn around and go, but brown people, right, guys? So, but yeah, you know, what do you call it? Kuru says, will Kash Patel be fired? I don't know. You know, Trump is extremely susceptible to ass kissery, and Kash Patel is, you know, fucking been puckering up for a long time. Emily in the City says, how dangerous is the rhetoric Trump Vance spewing by calling all Democrats terrorists? It's scary. It is extremely dangerous. It is extremely scary. It is irresponsible. It is one of a billion reasons that I think we all need to work together to unelect every single Republican who is both doing this and allowing this to happen. It is shockingly irresponsible. It has been irresponsible for a fucking long time, since 2015, ever since he fucking started doing this. Where if you look at a chart of political violence in America, you see it start to tick up once Donald Trump descended from that fucking golden escalator. Like, unbelievable. And every Republican in Congress is letting it happen. And every right-wing judge in this country is letting it happen. And obviously, I am not saying that the answer to that is violence or property destruction. The answer to that is organizing, doing the work, and voting every single Republican out of office, from president to dog catcher. All right. Maya Gold says, I kind of want to make a new political party. Would you join? I'm not excited about starting a new political party. I think it is going to be way easier to change the Democratic Party for the better because we already have a system for doing that. We already have the primary elections. We can replace every Democrat that we don't like by running somebody against them in the primary and then voting for that person. Starting a new party is expensive and tedious, and most political parties are not doing it correctly. Look at the Working Families Party. They've been going for a really long time. I think they're making all the right moves, but it is a slow and long and expensive process. Mel says, "Hey, Jared, hope all is well. Just joining to get updates on your site. Thanks. What kind of updates are you looking for on my site, Mel?" Moldorf says, "It's crazy that fake news wasn't a thing until Trump kept repeating this." I mean, I don't know what you mean by that, Moldorf. I mean, fake news existed before this. It was definitely a factor leading up to the 2016 election, so I'm not really sure what to mean by that. Guru says, "Is Trump trying to cover up the fellow with the island story?" 100% yes. Period says, "Thoughts on Israel? I am for the citizens of Israel the same way that I'm for the citizens of Palestine and Russia and China and North Korea. I should have, and Germany and Italy and every nation. But the government of Israel is terrible. They are doing war crimes. They are doing a genocide. It has been established by a bunch of independent organizations, including the UN, including those within Israel. So yeah, and as the more powerful country in that area, they need to be doing more work to tamp down the escalation as opposed to ramping it up, and that's what they're doing. Delino says U.S. News Network started monetizing in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, is that real, Delino? I feel like they were doing that before. Mel says, "Just everything you cover, nothing immaterial." All right, Mel. Well, appreciate you being here. Scott Clower says, "Can't make Christy Noem a dog catcher. No dogs will make it to the pound." Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Artemis says, "We need ranked choice voting in every state." That is true, Artemis. I'm for ranked choice voting, but two things to keep in mind. Number one, the Republican Party is hostile to the idea of ranked choice voting. They are trying to make it illegal nationally. And two, ranked choice voting is good, but it is not a cure-all. We had ranked choice voting for the mayoral election in 2021 or 2022, I believe, and we still elected Eric Adams, and he fucking sucks. Fog of War Productions says, "Do you think the trauma of World War II has had a negative influence on our politics?" The trauma of World War II. I think an argument could be made for War Productions, but I'm not really seeing it. I'm not really seeing the through line. I think, if you dig into the tendrils of the fascism that emerged from countries like Germany in the 1930s and how close they were to, taking over political movements here in America, like if you listen to Ultra, it seems a little bit more like what we're experiencing now is just like almost like a hydra like hibernation of those fascist forces as opposed to being some sort of like echo of trauma from World War II. I'm open to an argument. I just don't see it. I just don't see the through line. I don't see how the dots connect. Right. Hunter Fro says, "Who will be president in 2028?" I don't know. Who do you want to be president, Hunter? Raven Elise says, "Have you heard of the podcast Knowledge Fight?" I have not. I'll check it out though. Let's see here. Excellent live stream today, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Get in your final questions. But again, thank you for all the likes, the shares, the gifts, the questions, the comments. I really appreciate everybody being here and being involved. And I hope that you guys are out there doing the work and talking to people because that is the only way that we get out of this. Regular stream schedule is Monday through Friday, starting at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you have any questions or if you need to know how to better get involved in volunteer organizations, or how to contact your reps or whatever, please get in touch. Do not be shy about getting in touch. There are many ways that you can get in touch with me if you want to be more a part of this work, or even if you just have a question about politics that you were not able to get answered on this live stream. You can DM me. DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can go to my Discord channel. Don't be shy. I want to be a resource for you all. I want to make sure that we are getting people involved and educated and recruiting people for the fight, because we really need more people, and we really need the people doing the work to be doing more. So yeah, guys, please do the work and please get in touch and join the Discord. The Discord's a great resource for finding out how to do the work, what organizations to join, books and podcasts to check out, and you can use it to get in touch as well. All right, so yeah, let's see here. Average Joe BG says, "Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways?" That's an old one from Gallagher. I remember. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. You and Joe Flacco should be President and VP look-alike. That's pretty funny. Freeway Freddy says, "We are moving out of this country. Bye-bye. Good luck. Godspeed." Where are you going, Freeway Freddy? Let's see here. Jago Vargas, great to see you again. Can we still say that we have freedom of speech in this country? I don't know if it's going to be like a light switch. I think it's going to be like a percentage. Like, I think we probably have 85% free speech right now, and it's going down the longer that Trump is able to consolidate power. Fog War Productions, history is filled with monsters that make the fascists of World War II look tame by comparison. Yeah, I think it's probably accurate. Dimmer switch till yeah, exactly. Ezra says, "What wing is the best for society? Left, right, or center?" I think left, and I have a lot of evidence to back that up. All right, everybody, thank you again for being here. Check me out tomorrow. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Do the work. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.